Previously on T7R TV.
Everybody, and welcome back to D7R TV. We're back on the Sierra, as you may know if you watched our last video, and today's topic is exhausts. And we're going to be building an exhaust for the Sierra, and we're going to show you how. First of all, let's put this down. Fundamentals of an exhaust. There's a few criteria you need to meet. One is the correct size for exhaust flow. Depending on whether you're turbo or naturally aspirated, there's two different fundamentals to take into consideration. Whereas a turbocharged car doesn't really care too much about flow because it's forced induction, so it forces the exhaust gases down the tube and out the back of the car, or in a drag racing car case, straight up out the bonnet, hence why it's not that important. A naturally aspirated car, you need to be exact, otherwise you'll lose power. Naturally aspirated cars, they tend to have like a scavenging effect. So the manifold, the induction, the diameter of the pipe size, the boxes, everything you have to take into consideration and get your mathematics right. On the Sierra, it's quite a small turbo. It's a Subaru TD04 and we're going 3-inch exhaust. The exhaust will flow really well, but you need to get as many kinks out the exhaust as possible. So you want technically your exhaust to be as straight as possible and not curving around about, if you get what I mean. Anyway, let's get to it. Back under the car. So, in the last episode on the Sierra, we showed you how to make a downpipe. And we used TIG welding to weld it all up. So filler rod and the torch in hand. Today, we're going to be using our trusty MIG welder. Because it's under the car and you don't see it, we'll be using the MIG welder. I mean, I can weld MIG pretty damn good, to be honest. A lot better than TIG. So here's our usual setup, the chop saw. Here's our exhaust box with a 4-inch round out-roll tip that we'll be using. Here's our 3-inch tube, and this is our mid box. We're going to try and make it as quiet as possible, but still have a nice sound. So we're going to be following the original route of the car, under the diff, up, round, and then exit out the back. Well, that's the plan anyway. So back down here, we'll have a bend coming around here with a V-band clamp, and then this back section will be a separate piece. So the mid piece, also known as a B pipe, will come down here, up, box, round here, under the diff, and as we mentioned, out the back. So what do we do now? We can see it aims towards the gearbox, the downpipe does, but that's to keep it away from the firewall and underneath the car. So we took a 90 bend and we cut it up. A bit like we did when we was making our 45 degrees. This isn't 45 degrees and doesn't quite sit how we want it, just putting this pipe in here. I don't know whether you can tell, but it kicks down at an angle. So we've got two pipes to go in here at the right bend radius. I keep banging my head, sorry. And we need it to come round here, then straight. Here's our first part of the exhaust. I've done a little V here, which is matches up to the V-band clamp. And we got this little section here, and I drew a line on it. So that will match up to this. It's a bit fiddly because I've got my camera in hand. And it'll go something like that. And that should get us there or thereabouts straight under the car. As for the MIG welder, we're using 0.8 316 stainless steel wire. Now this stuff is pretty damn expensive. It's well over 100 quid for a 15 kilo roll. Then we have an earth. Then we have the torch. If you're making a stainless steel exhaust, make sure you use stainless steel wire. Otherwise, if you use mild steel wire, you're just going to make the exhaust rust. And it becomes a mild steel exhaust, so to speak. So take that into account. You got to pay to play. If you're going to build stainless steel exhausts, do it properly, use the correct wire, and should be jobs are good un. All right, let's get into it and start tacking her up. Welder's all set up. I've got no PPE on for this because it's just easier for me to see what I'm doing without it. Never ever look at the flash. So you want 3 points of contact. So that's that tacked on. Then we find our line, what we've done. Obviously this is different if you're using this video to show you how to build exhaust for other vehicles. Well, you just got to find your path. So on the line, a little hit it with a tack. Opposite side. Tack there. And at the bottom. So that's our first transition done. Obviously this is on a V-band, so we can undo this and rotate it and clock it if we need to. That's the beauty of them. But this is the start of our exhaust, guys. If you're like us, and you're going to be using a box in the middle, you want to see where that wants to sit. And then you're going to need to measure. For the amount of tube you're going to want to be cutting. And you want to be going inside the box. So I'm counting here. 260. So we're going to cut our tube to 260 millimeters and see how that goes. Right, so we cut our tube to size. We're clear of the gearbox mount, but as you can maybe see, the exhaust box sits a little too low for our liking. So what we want to do is transition up a bit more. We don't want the exhaust to be the lowest point of the car, especially when there's another 2.5 inch sitting lower here off the exhaust box. So if we remove the box, we're going to cut some 45-degree bends and transition up and more this way. So now we've done our little transition to get the exhaust up higher. The box has been placed on, and always make sure you can get your fingers through everywhere. You want a good 10mm gap everywhere you can. Anywhere that's going to catch, give yourself 10mm or finger width of gap, and you shouldn't go too far wrong, especially if your engine mounts are like these ones here, the little D rubbers and the poly bush, and they do the job, stop the exhaust from flapping about. Now your exhaust box is tacked into place, you need to worry about how far you want to go for your next transition, you want your next bend. So I'm reckoning there's about 1 metre. So we're going to cut 1 metre of tube, that should go in there, and then that should be our next bend up past the diff and entering up towards the back section. Right, now we've cut our new piece, this back section. Worked out about 900mm in the end. Not quite 1 metre, 1 metre was a bit too long. You're aiming directly out the middle. Needs a little bit of a tweak. There you go, something like that. Or like that. Either way, we can adjust that to suit. When we need to come around here now, then up past the drive shaft, and then start making our way towards the back section. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut another 90-degree bend in half for some 45mm transitions. As I say, I've got a little mark on my saw. You cut it directly down the middle, and that's a 45-degree bend instead of a 90 degree, like so. Transition, we've got our 45-degree here, we've got a piece here, and now we're clear of the diff and the drive shaft. So what that tells me is ready to tack our box in place. And make it permanent. So that's now part of the exhaust. Now time to get our transition here again now. I swear you need 10 arms to do this job. Case is mocking up, see where it sits, see where we got clearance. It's going to sit somewhere about there. Get it lined up the best you can. Tack fill. One good strong tack should hold it in position. just so you know. You can make the adjustments you need. And as it's pretty much how we want it, then you can go and put the other tacks in place. Got my finger a good one then. There's a slight angle on this piece here, and that's to help transition upwards, because we want to be going up and into that area, because this part's lower. And it also aids in being able to clock it away from anything like it's going to foul, i.e. the diff. So you're almost getting to the back section now, winning. This is where this midsection is going to end. So we're going to be putting our V-band clamp in position here. There's plenty of clearance. It's not the lowest point of the car, which is perfect. And this is where we'll start building the back section up. But you want to stop it here, because you'd only be doing this whole back section and front to the front in one piece. So we'll tap this in position, then it'd be a case of dropping the exhaust down, and then we can fully weld it and hang it at the same time. So when we put it back on the car, it'll be in its correct position. We can start building the back section, and we can start using our jack stands to hold the rear box in position. Like so. As you can see, we've got plenty of clearance all the way around the diff. Around the prop shaft bearing, there's plenty of space. The gearbox mount, there's plenty of space. And you know there's plenty of space on the downpipe. Winning. Now it's time to drop our midsection and fully weld it. So we've got our 10mm. So we're going to do the V-band and take our welding earth off now. Start lowering our jack stand. So here she is. This is the midsection, or as we call it, the B pipe. And what we're going to do before we weld is we're going to use some spatter guard or some anti-spatter, and we're going to give it a light coating of this, stop any of the spatter from sticking to the stainless steel. Now, tubing is notoriously difficult to weld, so what I suggest is you weld it in four quarters. So you'll go down to the middle, from the top down to the middle, from the top down to the middle, all the way along, then top down to the middle the other side, then flip it over, then do the exact same. And it's as simple as that. Always overlap your weld as well to make sure there's no little pinholes or anything that'll let exhaust gases escape. So waiting for this anti-spatter to set, we've got our earth on ready to weld, and I weld quite fast and my machine is set up quite high, so I aim to hit it all in one go, all the way around. I know that it's down to skill set. I've been doing this a long time. I can understand that you may not have done that, so try and avoid, if you can, all the way around, because it's not going to work. You're going to end up with little pinholes in between every single run that you do, and it's not good, and it's going to leak, and it looks terrible. Welding time. And that's how you weld tube. 4/4 overlap, so you'll have a little bit of a bulge at the ends, but keep it consistent. If you're more skilled or got a lot of experience with welding, try and keep it as hot as possible and try and keep your run a nice even bead all the way around. Don't be spot welding it because it's just going to leak or crack. So what's up next? Well, we're going to fit it back to the car, get it hung in place, then we're going to actually make the hangers. Right, so now you've got your exhaust fitted. You want to put your hangers in some strategic places. We're using D-rubber as I mentioned previously. So we'll make a little hanger which comes off here. Then over this side, you've got a D-rubber here. That'll be another mount. And that should be enough to stop the exhaust from flapping around. As you can see, there's plenty of movement. There's not so much up movement, but the weight of the exhaust will be bared by the hangers. There's one here, one of the original ones. I don't know if we'll use that yet or put another D-rubber in. We put a D-rubber here, so that should support the back box once that's on here. Right, so how are we going to be hanging this exhaust? We're going to be using 8mm round stainless steel bar. And what we're going to do is get against our mounts, see how much we need. We're going to put sort of this angle on it using a vise and a copper mallet to bang it into place. I'm going to be chopping it on the chop saw. So chop the length you need. Well, just watch. Right, so here's our mounting point here. And we're going to be making a mount about this long. So we're going to use about 150 millimeters. So chop it at 150 millimeters and then put our crooked end on it and then weld it to the mid box. Then the same towards the back diff mount. And it should be jobs are good in. Right, so that's going to be our general length. We'll just use the chop saw as a bit of a deburrer to round the edges off so it's not sharp, like so. Now it's over to the vise. Right, so here we're at the vise, and we're going to be starting to make our little hook section. Probably better off that way. This is going to be about 20 millimeters. We've got that to start off with, and the length of the D-rubber, sorry, is about another 20 millimeters. So we get that there, get 20 millimeters again. Lock her off. Everything's falling off the table, as you'd expect. Some people heat these up, but this is annealed bar, so this is what we're on about. Probably do with a little bit more angle. Like so. So this should be the correct profile we need, but we'll see. Right, so as you can see, we've got our mounting rubber here, and this is going to go through the hole and get it through. It's a bit of an awkward angle, but it's got to go through the hole in the middle of the D-rubber. You can use WD-40 on these to make your life a bit easier. It is coming. And we have our first hanger. So what you want to do now is go around the exhaust, make sure that it's still in a good position, that there's space around it, so it's not going to catch on anything. And we're probably going to lop this off about here, but we're going to run a beader weld either side to secure this in its position. Now it's time to weld the hanger on. A little tip to get the excess off. Just like that. Ching! Now we've got to do this hanger here. It's the same principle. Get it to where you want it, get some overhang on there. Sort of get it to about there. So we know we need this much. So over to the chop saw and start cutting. So if you survive the midsection build, it's now time to start prepping to get the back box fitted. This is the only part you're going to see of the exhaust, so it's imperative that you get it lined up exactly where you want it and make sure that it doesn't foul on anything and all's well and good. Let's go. Right, so this badger has to come out of here like this. So it's important that we need to make this little section now line up perfectly. And what we have to do that is lower the car down to sort of eye height, because you get a good line of sight of everywhere you want to aim. And you've got your datum point here, and you've got to finish up with your datum point there. Then eventually you can have your datum point here. So there's 3 ports of call, 3 important parts to think about. The exit, how much stick out you want, and if it's lined up so you don't burn your bumper. Your hangers, need to figure that out, and this section needs to be nice and free flowing. Let's go. Right, the car's been lowered down now, so the tip should be about eye level. So now, then we use a jack stand to hold the exhaust box in a position where we need to aim towards the back entry of the exhaust box. Easier said than done. Just giving it a visual around. Let's come down a touch. I'm looking straight down the barrel and I can see where I need to aim. And it's roughly, well, it's not quite 45 degrees. And this is a 4-inch tip that the customer's requested. And I need something that's gonna protect the bumper. So I've got a piece of this foam or cork, and this is gonna give me a spacer around the box to make sure that I don't foul on anything. So looking down the barrel again, so here's my point of view. And right at the very end, you can see where we're aiming for. The customer wants the exhaust to sit straight, but that's not quite possible because of the way the boot sits and the spare wheel well. There's quite a lot of space constraints in here, so we'll do our best. Right, so we've got our tape measure again now, and we got one of those offcuts that we had, which is about 22.5 degrees. And we're just going to line it up until it looks like it's going to go straight down the barrel of the back box. I mean, obviously we can tilt this where we need it, and I'm counting 330 millimeters to what this point's going to be, and then we're going to have another section going to there. So we'll cut 330 millimeters first and see if we can look down the barrel and that's going to sit where we need it. It's not the best of shots because of how I'm trying to explain stuff, but if you've done your maths properly and you're pretty good with angles, you should be aiming to be that close, which is bang on. I get a better angle for you, so you get the gist of it. No, that's not going to work. Just trying to keep my head out of the way for you. So that's coming out the exhaust now, the midsection, and going straight down the barrel of the back box. So what we want to do now is tack it up, take it off, weld her up, hanger, jobs are good and winning. So now we've got our spacers where the tip is. So we shouldn't be fouling on the bumper. Just look around, make sure it's not fouling on the boot or anywhere else, which it's not. We've tacked her up now. It's where we want it to sit. So it's a case of tacking the box on, taking her off from the V-bank clamp, welding it up, then making some more hangers. So that's our exhaust all welded up. Just got to hang it now, and job's a good one. Because of the length of this hanger here, we made a little torsion bar which will go like this, and it'll help absorb a little bit more of the vibration and also make it a little bit stronger. Winning. So there we have it, guys. Exhaust built for the Sierra and how to do it, which is the reason why we do these videos as tutorials. We can't show you every aspect, but we give you a general idea. Obviously, the measurements for this car are going to be obviously different for another vehicle, and obviously the way you want to channel your exhaust, where you want it to sit, suits you best, is how you're going to build it to your measurements, to your specification. We can show you that you can make nice clean welds with a MIG welder, as long as you implement the right things, basically. Use stainless wire on stainless steel, mild steel wire on mild steel, etc. But we give you the basics. If you follow along and you learn something, that's the point of these videos. So please like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. And if you enjoy our videos, please say to us in the comment section. No one really comments, but I don't know whether that's good or bad, but it'd be nice to see some comments in there. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace out.